announcers with the seat, so please keep your seatbelts fastened. Thanks when the seatbelt sign is turned on. We'll talk to you on the seat.
When does a boy become a man in a father's eyes? That's a tough call. You know, I know some guys have lived their whole life and never got the acknowledgement from their fathers. But I can honestly say that there was a couple of moments on trips with my son when I had that crossover moment and I knew that I was dealing with a man.
So the first big major hunt that I went on was New Zealand. You know, I had never even been to that side of the world, let alone on a major hunt like this, so this was a totally new experience for me.
When I booked a trip to New Zealand, you know, it was something that I wanted to share with my son. I mean, my son played ball his whole life. I was coaching him and, you know, spent a lot of time with him. But as he got older, you kind of grew apart, and my son didn't hunt. So we didn't have that together. So to be able to go to New Zealand with my son was a memorable thing for me, and plus the fact that he was going to be running camera. It was his first time doing it. He had a little experience, you know, making some home videos and stuff, so the footage was going to be shaky, but I didn't have my own show at the time, and I thought it would be cool to share that with my son. We had a great time. You know, we hit New Zealand, and we've both never been there before, and we're just traveling to camp and seeing the sights and meeting the people. Just so friendly, just a cool place to be. My son had never hunted with me, so he had no idea exactly what we were doing, but it was an incredible trip to get to see New Zealand, and it was basically a vacation with a hunt involved. He did get to spend some time. We went through the cities and towns and met a lot of really great people.
There's the duxton right there.
So for me, growing up in the city was a tough situation. I mean, I grew up in a neighborhood where if you mouthed it off to the wrong guy, you were gonna fight. There was no getting around it. There was no talking back and forth. You were gonna fight. So, and it was fine because you shook hands afterwards, went back to playing ball. It wasn't a big deal when I grew up. So I take that same feeling with me into the wild. And although my son didn't grow up in the city like I did, he went to college there, so he understands the ways of the city. Just, you know, the things that you have to be aware of your surroundings when you're going through the city. There's still areas that you go in, you might not walk out, so you gotta be careful with that. And I think that by me passing on my upbringing to him, made an easier transition for him to deal with what we were gonna encounter in the wild.
So being that this was my first time traveling overseas internationally, I was definitely a little nervous, especially too going on this trip by myself with my dad. You know, I think that's the first time me and him had been together away from everybody for that long. So that was definitely going to be experience. I was mostly excited. I really just wanted to get over there. I really wanted to see the terrain and meet the people and just get to experience what this side of the world had to offer. So getting to travel to both North and South Island in New Zealand, I got to experience so much of what New Zealand has to offer, from the rugged mountains to the rolling hills. I mean, in forests with these prehistoric stag running around. I mean, it just really was a wild place to be, and the fact that it's in the middle of the Pacific Ocean just made it that much cooler to be a part of. So I got involved with the show when my dad first came to me with some footage from a hunt that he had went to and asked me to, you know, get it ingested for him and get it over to Mike Avery for his TV show. I had never done editing. It was something that I was interested in, but I never got the chance to actually work with something. So it was really interesting to get that type of footage and get myself involved in television, you know, which I ended up doing for the rest of my life.
It's our first day here. In fact, we just arrived this morning and the roar is on. I'm totally pumped and I'm thinking this is going to be a great week.
just being a cameraman at first is difficult enough. You know, you want to do a good job for your client, so there's that level as far as being a professional and making sure that you do a good job. But being that it's my dad who's on the other end, it takes a different turn. You know, I strive to make him proud, and I want him to be proud of me, and sometimes I'm a little harder on myself. If there's one thing that he has imparted to me, it's that it's always continue to push yourself. So when we had gone to New Zealand and started, you know, stalking for the stag and looking around, you know, we were going up in hills, and I'm trying to keep the cameras dry and keep them steady, and it was just tough. It was a big learning experience. Then the morning came when we were doing a stalk. We ended up on top of the mountain in the fog. And we could hear these stags roaring in the distance. And for me, I personally had never been in the woods like that. I had never heard something like that. And that to me was so impressive and invigorating. To just hear that and hear an animal make a noise like that, it just really was very humbling.
We went on some incredible journeys together, these adventures that were like, my son just doesn't get some of the stuff that he caught on camera. I mean, he has some of the most magnificent moments caught on camera. To him, it was like, okay, no big deal. And I'm like, I don't think you understand. It doesn't happen like this.
So we're calling these stag in, and we could hear them in the distance. And then all of a sudden, my dad hits my arm and is going, Chris, it's right there, right there. And all of a sudden, I panned the camera over, and this beautiful stag was just standing on the top of the ridge, and it all happened so quick.
And this stag, all I see is the tips of his antlers coming up, and I grab him, and he gets the camera on him, and I got this giant double drop tine stag in the fog on top of a mountain, a 25-yard archery shot. Like, you know, again, this just doesn't happen.
I was just happy I was able to get the shot, and so that was my first experience of getting an animal on camera, and it was something I feel like I won't ever top to this day.
It was just a magnificent stag. It was number 7 in the world at the time, taken with a bow, and you know, he caught it on camera. It was just a pretty amazing moment.
That's the boy. Dude, that was awesome. That's the one we saw last night. Yeah, you called him straight up. Yeah, see, that was a good shot. That was a good shot. We got that boy. I'll tell you, we got that boy. He's not going anywhere.
I think so. He's right there.
He's dead.
Yeah, I got blood here. He's right there, right there. Oh my God. Whoa! Oh man. That is an animal. That is an animal, man. Whoa!
One of the other hunts that we got to do when we were out in New Zealand was the tar hunt. And so our guide brought us out to this beautiful area. I mean, it's literally the mountains from Lord of the Rings. We were drinking water out of the stream. It really was just a magical place. So we're up there and we're taking a look at all these tar, and we're walking through, and you know, the prickers are getting you, and it's just a tough hunt and a hot day. A lot of work that we did to get on this animal. But once we did see him, he popped his head up. I was over my dad's shoulder. He put a great shot on him, and I was just happy the camera was rolling and we got a usable shot. That's always the biggest thing, making sure you get the shot on the animal. Everything else, you know, is always second to that.
You know, we got to do some other things on this trip too. We got to fly in some fly fishing in a helicopter, and flying doesn't really bother me, but this helicopter was a little shaky. So you're looking down through the glass, and these guys are cowboys. They're wild men with the helicopters doing all kinds of crazy stuff. So it was pretty intense, and you're flying right on top of the trees. The place is so lush and so beautiful. And I'm a novice fly fisherman. My son never fly fished at all. So for both of us to be going to a pristine fly fishing stream that no one gets the chance to fish, it's kind of not fair, because there's probably some fly fishermen who've never got the chance to do something like that who deserve it. But again, we were there, we took advantage of it, and just had an incredible day on the water.
That was my first time being in a helicopter. It was my first time fly fishing as well. It was a really good chance for me and my dad to get some of the stress of the hunt off our shoulders here and really just let loose and enjoy the afternoon with each other. You know, looking back at a lot of that footage, I'm just amazed that I even got the opportunity to be there, and it's something that's going to live with me for the rest of my life.
First fish, Chris.
You can touch it, Mike. Well done.
Good. Very good.
You know, traveling around the world, you know, you meet so many new people, but when you're in that hunting community, it's kind of a bond that seems to permeate between all of us. We all have that same feeling, the love of the outdoors, the family tradition, the hunt.
New Zealand, at its best. Fly fishing New Zealand, man, unbelievable.
And it's kind of weird, no matter where you're from. When you meet these people, you can fortify that bond. You feel like you've stepped into their world, they've stepped into your world, and a lot of these people have become friends of mine for years. I mean, to this day, I'm still friends with these people, still stay in contact, even though they're halfway around the world. It's pretty incredible.
So before the hunting show, I would say that me and my dad had a pretty standard father-son relationship. Getting to see each other when we were able to, trying to balance school and work, things along those lines. You know, maybe he'd get to take me to a practice or a game. But once we actually got to start working on the hunting show together, we really got to spend more time together. And I was able to see, you know, how passionate he was about hunting and the whole thing. So that was really interesting for me as his son to be a part of.
Now we're going to get to one of the greatest hunts I've ever been on. It wasn't because of the animal who's behind me here, this brown bear. It was the fact that my son got this footage.
So, you know, you hear all these stories from your dad about, oh, this trip and what he did and how badass he is. And honestly, they're all stories until you actually see it. When I got out there, my dad showed me that he was the real deal. I mean, there were more moments than I can count that, you know, backed up what I had heard all those years. You know, one that comes to mind is when the bear was standing up. He had no problems walking in there with a bow on an animal that could clearly come down and take your life if it wanted to. So just watching that from afar and doing that, I don't think I had the guts to walk up on an animal like that.
I would say the proudest moment was the brown bear hunt. I went there with my bow with the intention of killing a brown bear with my bow, totally aware of what could happen, because you're gonna have to get in close. I gotta tell you, the bear came up. It's a pretty iconic shot. We used a screenshot from it. It's been seen everywhere. Bear stood up in front of me. I was there with my bow, ready to shoot, and my son captured the whole thing on camera without moving, now without getting scared, without running. I don't know if it's just stupidity and it runs in our family, not really sure, but all I can tell you is that was a pretty iconic moment. And when I did shoot my brown bear later that day on the river, the bear was 5 yards under us. And I basically turned to him and said, don't move. Because if he'd have moved to try to get the impact shot, he would have spooked that bear, or at least alerted him to our presence. Who knows what could have happened. But I took the shot, and the bear was right under me, and my son had the presence of mind to turn the camera and catch the blood pouring out of the bear as he was running off. So you really got the feel of what was there, even though we didn't get the actual impact shot. You could hear it, you could hear the bear, and you just see the blood pouring out of him. And that, again, was something that I'll never forget. I think that's probably one of the proudest moments I've ever had traveling with my son.
And I was able to follow it as it was running off, so that was really, really awesome, and I was really glad to get that shot. You know, another moment that'll always stick with me in the way that I view my dad was, you know, after we had gotten our big Alaskan brown bear and we're skinning the animal out, you know, our guide had made a mistake and accidentally stabbed my dad in the wrist. Seeing that blood shoot out of his wrist, everything just ran out of my face.
When your kids are growing up, they kind of look to their dads like he's this superhero, But as they grow up, sometimes that cape comes off. I'm sure a lot of fathers out there understand what I'm saying. The kid doesn't look at you the same way anymore. Now they're starting to become young adults. All the stories that you've told them about how you've lived and all the experiences you've had, they don't ring as true anymore because you're getting older and you're not that same guy.
You live your entire life thinking that your dad is invincible, and then you see something like that, and in an instant, things got really serious. But the way that he handled that situation was probably even more impressive, all right? After just getting stabbed in the arm, he was able to calm me down, he calmed the guy down, and then he was able to take care of himself out in the field like that. So just being able to take care of yourself like that and calm the people around you in a difficult situation showed me more than just that he's a badass. It really took it to light that when it hit the fan, he was gonna take care of business.
To have your son look at you and still have that same feeling of, well, my dad's the guy who can get it done. He's still Superman. That's rare, and I got the privilege of experiencing that with my son, and it's just something, I'll take with me for the rest of my life.
What do you say?
It's Alaska. I say Alaska. Yeah. Gotta love the weather, man.
So probably one of the most stressful times of our trip is the traveling portion. Just keeping track of the gear, making sure that we're on time for flights. My dad is really regimented when it comes to that sort of thing. So really, you had to be on your game when we were traveling. When I started doing this, I was a little bit younger and maybe looking forward to the trip and thinking things. But as I got older, it was more of a proving ground for me. Make sure that you stay on top of your things. Make sure that you keep this running smoothly and get to the other side of this, ready to do the job.
There's another trip where we were self-guided caribou hunting in Alaska. My son was running camera, and we caught the northern lights, and we're fishing on a stream and eating the fish we catch, and those are just incredible moments.
So, the caribou hunt itself is tough. You're trying to get on these caribou. There's a lot of them. They're coming from all different directions. So the hunt itself is tough. But honestly, the entire experience of being on a self-guided hunt, is its challenge all its own. You're trying to survive out in the wilderness, you're trying to eat, you're trying to sleep, you're trying to keep equipment dry. There's just so much that's going on, and you're constantly under stress, from one end or the other. So really, for me, it was really just surviving and trying to just get what we came to get.
I had brought a guy from Argentina, a friend, who's a great photographer, but I figured he could run the video cameras because he's a really good hunter. So we stalk in, we're on this caribou, we're 50-something yards from the caribou. I'm ready to take the shot. He's over my shoulder. We got a great situation. I've been warning the guy all week, a little bit of a language barrier, but I've been telling him all week, make sure you press record. Of course, the worst happens, he doesn't press record, but again, my son had the presence of mind to be recording the whole incident. So he had us stalking in, he had the impact shot, he saved the show. And again, those are just things that, as a father, you look at your son differently when you can count on him. And there are moments like that that just solidified our relationship. Whenever you're doing a self-guided hunt, you're going into something new. You're packing food, but you're going to have to live off the land. You can't bring that much food with you. So we were catching fish every day. We did have some food with us, some mountain house and stuff that we kind of made meals out of. But getting that caribou was pretty important because for someone who doesn't hunt, to see where your meat's coming from, to know that we're slicing up that hind quarter and we're eating it in camp that night, That meant a lot to me for my son to see that.
You know, you could say a lot of things about my dad, and there's so many good things that he does, his drive, his passion, and all of the other good things that he does for people. But one of the great things about him is that he is quick to point out his own flaws and tell you not to be like him. He's constantly imparting onto me that be a better man than I am, to, you know, take my good lessons, but leave the bad away. And that's something that I try to take into my life every day, dealing with my child. And, you know, I just want him to be a better man than I, and my dad wants the same thing for me. So I can continue to look up to him to this day because I'm not trying to be him, and I'm trying to be myself and really just take the good lessons that he gives me and use them in my own life.